evening. It's 6 o'clock on Thursday, January 26, 2017. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, where we bring you today's top stories translated into English every weeknight. The U.S. Embassy to Albania has revoked non-immigrant visas for several Albanian judges and prosecutors. Through a media announcement, the U.S. Embassy informed that it has revoked the visas of some judges and prosecutors because it found them not qualified for the visas. The U.S. Embassy has revoked the non-immigrant visas of several Albanian judges and prosecutors after determining that the officials no longer qualify for these visas. Because visa records are confidential under U.S. law, we cannot comment on individual cases. The U.S. Embassy took this action in advance of the upcoming vetting process that will assess certain officials' ties to corruption and in response to a case involving the flagrant abuse of an official visa by a senior prosecutor and his spouse, leading to the revocation of their visas. The U.S. Embassy takes allegations of corruption seriously and will continue to review justice officials' visas and visa applications with additional scrutiny. The Department of State has broad authority to deny and revoke visas based on information indicating that a visa holder may be inadmissible to the United States and will continue to use this authority to advance its anti-corruption efforts in Albania, reads the U.S. Embassy announcement. Around 800 judges and prosecutors from all around the country are filling the 3 forms required to discover the data for their wealth, professional standing, and their integrity, which must be submitted by January 31st to comply with the vetting process deadlines. As the deadline is closing in, the judges and prosecutors are dedicated to filling out the forms in time. The number of forms already submitted is increasing every day. All judges and prosecutors must submit their wealth declaration forms at the Supreme Inspectorate for Declaration of Wealth. Also, their personal information forms at the Directory of Classified Information. Then, the prosecutors must submit their professional data at the Prosecution General and the judges at the Supreme Judicial Council. Though the amount of forms being submitted overall is increasing, Aura News sources say that compared to the total number of judges and prosecutors who must be vetted, only a small number of forms have been delivered so far. As of today, only 180 forms have been submitted to the Supreme Inspectorate for Declaration of Wealth. A higher number of forms are expected to be handed in over the weekend, especially by the judges and prosecutors from other cities. If judges and prosecutors fail to submit the forms within the legal deadline, they risk being removed from the justice system. Conflict between Kosovo and Serbia was discussed in Parliament today. The former socialist MP Blushi said that Albania's foreign policy has failed, and according to him, this was proved in the case of Kosovo. MP Blushi criticized Albanian foreign policy, declaring it not to have ideas or the ability to predict situations of the region and the world. Our foreign policy lacks prediction. It does not have a sense of prediction. It's like playing basketball without hands. Being weak, Albania cannot help Kosovo. Parliament should deal seriously with Kosovo issues. I have proposed a resolution in the Foreign Commission, and it should be taken into consideration. Right now, there is no stance. Our diplomacy should make it clear that if Kosovo is divided in the north, there would be only one reasonable consequence: unification of Kosovo with Albania, not asked for by Albanians, but provoked by others, said Blushi. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ditmir Bushati, replied to the former socialist MP, "We have always been by Kosovo's side. It is not true that Albania has not reacted to the situation in Kosovo. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Prime Minister's office is dealing with such issues. Albania will continue to support dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia. Albania has contributed to stability in the region. Foreign policy should not be used for daily interests," declared the foreign minister. MP Blushi said that Serbia has a clear project to divide Kosovo and take the north of the country. He says this is happening because Albania has weakened its positions in the region. On this point, he said that Kosovo and Albania should be unified. if Albanian foreign policy is not attentive and does not analyze the developments. The former Prime Minister, Sali Berisha, supported the thesis, though Mr. Berisha was harsher, emphasizing that Albania does not follow NATO policies. According to the former Prime Minister, it is unprecedented that the Prime Minister has not congratulated the U.S. President and asked Parliament to monitor any steps in foreign policy. Democrat MP Edward Halimi and former Prime Minister Sali Berisha called on the majority to accept electronic voting as a request of all opposition parties for free and honest elections. In the plenary session, as it has warned, the opposition's focus was on its request for electronic voting and counting, with Mr. Berisha accusing the Prime Minister of liberating criminals from prison in order to use them to manipulate the election results. The realization of electronic voting is possible and solves many problems that have characterized the past. Electronic voting solves the migrants' voting issue. No elections can be held if you refuse the opposition party's proposal, said Berisha, going on to accuse the Prime Minister of stopping electronic voting. Edi Rama stands close to criminals. He liberated Lulzum Berisha. He is now engaged in a criminal process to liberate Aldo Bare, accused the former Prime Minister from the parliamentary podium. Meanwhile, the head of the Socialist Party parliamentary group considered the DP request an electoral process and saying that the opposition does not really want electronic voting. You were in power and did not apply electronic voting and counting. 2 years before elections, we asked you for electronic counting and you did not realize it. Now, 3 months before the elections, you are asking for what you could not do with 2 years before the elections. All this is an alibi. You do not really want electronic voting and counting. Our duty is to implement the OSCE ODIHR recommendations. Is the vote selling a problem? Then let's change the criminal code. Why do you not come and give your agreement? Is election transparency a problem? Then let's talk about it. But you do not have the will to talk, and all of this is an alibi to justify your loss, declared the chairman of the Socialist Parliamentary Group. Arta Dade, a Socialist MP, was invited to our program Tonight on Ilva Tare, where she declared that the coalition with the Socialist Movement for Integration should continue, as according to her, the coalition is functioning. I think there is no reason not to continue with the same practice because it is a coalition that has functioned. The decisions are made by political parties, but I am in favor of continuing with the coalition with the Socialist Movement for Integration because it is a natural cooperation. I do not feel the same way about the other party that has joined the coalition because we were not together in the 2013 elections. We should manage situations that may create problems for the largest party. In Albania, there are efforts from small parties which use power to consolidate their party, and we should avoid such things, declared the Socialist MP. Regarding the new president, the Socialist MP said she would support having a female president and that she would not refuse if she was proposed for the post. I would welcome a woman as president of the country. Albania has many women with personality who do not make compromises and stay above the party interests. I would like to have a woman from the Socialist Party to be the president. If I was asked to be the president, I would not refuse, said Socialist MP Dade, adding that she will continue to be the Socialist Party's MP. The resolution for the crimes against the Cham community will be discussed over the coming weeks in Parliament as the political parties asked for more consultations. For the second time, the Conference of Chairmen decided not to include the Cham issue on today's plenary session agenda, but to Masila Doda of the Party for Justice, Integrity and Unity. This is not a problem, as the issue will be discussed in the coming weeks. A postponement until next week has been asked for. Apparently, the parties did not consult the importance or how the inquiry commission will operate. We did not withdraw from establishing a commission. We are consulting the issue with the chairman of the commission. The truth of the massacre of Albanians from Chamaria should come out. We should see all the documents the Albanian state has. the documents in archive. I think we will have news by next week, said MP Dade. The Conference of Chairmen chose to postpone the issue on the agenda in order to get consultations and verification the SP and SMI parties feel are needed to decide if the issue is within the Albanian jurisdiction. Albania's public administration seems to be ready to be part of the European Union. Brussels has tested the public administration to see how ready it is for negotiations to begin and found it to have exceeded the expectations. 200 graduates of the 3-month administration internship program, where graduates have been employed in the public administration, were given their training certificates today. During the ceremony, the Minister of Social Welfare, Blushi, had this to say. Today, we have an administration that passed the EU test, exceeding all the expectancies. We proved we have a public administration that is ready for European integration and for the opening of negotiations. The Vice Prime Minister accused the former government of using poor practices for educating the youth, which he says brought higher unemployment. The 3-month internship program gives students the opportunity to sign a 1-year contract to work in the public administration. The number of applicants has been high this year, and the number of those hired will double, going up to 400 new public administration jobs. That's all for our English edition this evening. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Mari, and on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.